Run!
All right, let's get to it. It's been a minute. I haven't had enough time to deal with this. Of course, I still have a real life and another channel to build up and work on. So there's a little time to necessarily get on here and rant and rave. And also, things are coming so fast that I have to constantly evaluate and calibrate what I want this channel to do. Initially, it was after Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, which was to dissect a lot of these broader arguments of race and gender and take on them and deconstruct those. And probably will focus a little bit more on that going forward as I get better at the production. Been able to focus on some of the topical issues as they come because I've been able to include footage and kind of get a tighter idea of how the videos are going to look consistently. And so I'm very happy that in 3 months, kind of gone from a guy looking down into his phone and the audio going out in his car to names and intros and self-produced music intro because everything is copyright infringement and whatever else. So I've gone out of my way to clean up and tighten up the type of presentation so that if this channel does ever become a YouTube staple, then people will know that they can get a regular, consistent, quality product. Now, I've chased away a lot of viewers, chased away a lot of things because it is important that while I work to increase the quality of the content and the production quality, that I don't become a person chasing this fame. Recently, in the interim, I watched the documentary, and I think everyone should watch it. The Social Dilemma was on Netflix, so you don't have to spend any money. You got to go through no extra effort. If you have Netflix, it's on there. And a lot of these founders and people who are involved at high levels of these social media companies or data mining companies, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, don't allow their children on social media, turn off their devices. Suicide rates are up. And so if I come on here again and again, I've said I wanted to contribute something. I am very much prepared to be face number 3094 in the crowd. I don't have to be on the podium. I don't have to be the star of the show. I am content lending my voice to the chorus. I've been at the forefront of things my whole life. And at this point, I know who I am. I know what I have to say. I know the knowledge I have. And so I am content being a contributor. And so this type of content does not lead itself to being some dehydrated 20-year-old trying to stream and make 3 videos a day, worried about monetizing them, worried about keeping my viewers. I'm not in that type of world. I'm not in the type of world where I'm going to focus so much on clickbait that I'm just going to have hysterically crazy titles and stuff like that and say outlandish things to try to get attention and get people to notice me. There is no competing with these cat videos, these sketches, these people that are willing to whore themselves out to the nth degree, put their children in it, do whatever they have to do to get people to click on it. It's a sickness. And I'm too old to take part. I know better. I lived into my adulthood before there was internet on a massive scale. I lived into my 30s, before smartphones were really a thing. I lived most of my life before there was a Facebook. I lived most of my life before there was a Yahoo and things like that. So I do not know what it's like to be like Gen Z. Some of my younger children who have never known a world without a device in their hand, who have never known a world without being connected to something, who have never known a world. I know a world where I used to read for hours. I know a world where I just read comic books or would sit in my room and just read books. And so I feel sorry for this generation that's looking down at their phone constantly for approval, for validation, for whatever. However many clicks, how many people watch my video, I'm grateful. But in a world where everybody's a content provider and everybody felt like the video they made this morning and posted to Facebook or whatever else is just as important as what I have to say, that's fine, because it is just as valid. So why am I concerned if I got 3,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 people to watch what I have to say, as opposed to everybody that got up this morning and said, hey, good morning, Facebook, or hey, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever the hell their medium is, and got all their friends to look at it. I don't want that type of attention. I'm not willing to perform for the attention. So, want to get that out the way, and that's just all channel related. Again, I'm not going to ask for subscribers. I'm not going to ask for views. I'm not in a race for a number of subscribers. I feel like I've had a lot of views for the amount of time I've been on there, for the type of content that I'm producing, and for where I am in notoriety. I'm not bringing any fans with me. I'm an adult, be 50 years old next month, so I maybe have 100 friends on Facebook rather than a lot of younger people, including my own children, who have thousands, basically. So a lot of times everybody they've ever met is a friend, but I've met hundreds of thousands of people in the 5 decades I've been kicking around this world, lived across this country, out of this country. Everybody is not your friend. And so even everybody on my friends list now out of the 100 is not necessarily a friend. Somebody I could call at 2 a.m. if I had a flat tire or something and my car was stuck to come and get me. Many of them are. That's why they're there. But not everybody. But everybody there could call me at 2 a.m. So just want to be clear, and that's just a little bit of a PSA, not so much about my channels or caring about viewers, but for you to do your own personal reflection of where being data mined, because that's what it is. It's not social media. There's no fucking such thing as social media. It's data mining of them selling off your habits and selling them back to you. I can't click on a YouTube video without 2 commercials first. I can't. And it being interrupted 5 times in a 2-minute video with 2-minute segments of commercials. I can't scroll down and see what my friends are doing without an advertisement every 2 posts. So, I'm being data mined to death. I look at my YouTube feed and it's everything that I've already watched. I have to break out of my own bubble deliberately, or I will believe that everybody is focused on the Jacksonville Jaguars, virtual reality, politics, and, handful of other things, whatever my focus happened to be. Luckily, my focus are varied and wide. So it will have everything from Neil deGrasse Tyson on there to Fox News, because I click on everything deliberately. But by the same token, I'm very afraid of everybody that is just trapped in a bubble, and everything down their news feed, everything on their YouTube feed is just feeding back to them what they have shown an engagement for, and you're just stuck with it. I bought a mattress 2 months ago. Purple, nectar, whatever else, can't be left alone for the past 2 months. Bought a ring last month. Bang, 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 bang. I mean, if you look at it, you're stuck with it. So be very, very careful that what you're seeing is not what I am seeing when I scroll on it. You might not have seen anything about VR. I see it because I got a VR headset and I keep up with the games and whatever's going on. And so it's a lot of the latest and greatest on that, and you might not get any of that. You might not get anything about the NBA Finals. You might not get anything about the NFL, and that's all I get. Depending on what news you follow, you might not get the other. I'm going to get Tucker Carlson and Bill Maher or whatever else. You may only get one of them because you will only listen to one of them. And so be very careful that the way you're being presented that the world is has nothing to do with the world being that way, or that there's somebody that you consider completely stupid who is getting fed the complete opposite version. And to them, you're completely stupid because everything they see is how Trump is being attacked and how he's trying to do his best and fighting for the greater good and whatever else. And you're going, who the hell is seeing that? Who the hell is seeing anything but him being a fraud and a tax cheat and this, that, and other? You're being fed tax cheat and they're being fed hero. They are. And I learned that a long time ago when I went into the Army and I was sitting in the classroom. There's a lot of classroom time when you go into basic training. It's not running around playing G.I. Joe. It's classroom instructions on weapons and weapons training and military strategies and all kind of stuff. And told me at 18 years old, this kid in the Soviet Union being told the same shit you're being told right now. And for whatever reason, until that moment, it had not dawned on me that the kids in the Soviet Union were being told the same thing I was being told, which is they're the good guys. People from Russia are not coming across the Rio Grande and have no inclination to live in the United States. You can hear about defectors, but there's just as many Americans who have moved to Russia as there are the other way around. There's just as many Americans who have moved and live happily in Mexico as there are people from Mexico living in the United States. Same thing for Canada. It's 5% of the world, and most of the world wouldn't live here if you offered them a free plane ticket. Why should they? They got to move away from their family. They got to move away from their culture. All they see about us is racial strife and drug wars and belligerent presidents and all kind of nonsense. It's not very tempting when they are being fed by their society that you're in the best place and you have a rich culture and these are your people and you should do your part to further it for your future generations. They have no reason. So that's culture-wide. That's from these data mining companies. That's from all of this. Like they say in jail, do the time. Don't let it do you. That means go in there, be on your best behavior, get out in the minimal amount of time that you can get out of, improve your case, and become out a better human being. Don't go in there getting wrapped up in the silly politics of jail, getting into fights, prolonging your period of time, getting held in there or whatever else. That's the time doing you. So do social media. Find out keep up with your friends. Enact and empower one another. Support one another. Love one another. Create dialogues across political, religious, racial lines. Use it. Don't just let it use you for advertising by feeding you the same bullshit you believe. Enough of that. Again, this video is titled Taxes, and I've spent half of it not talking about taxes. So, it's considered class warfare to ask for the rich to pay their fair share. Now, I know framing it that way says that that's a subjective slant, but it's actually not a subjective slant because a fair share would objectively say that if somebody makes $500 a week, has 2 kids, and that costs them $100 a week in groceries, that is 20% of their income. Period. There is no way to look at that as a subjective understanding. And so when you say fair share, it would mean that 20% that they have to spend on food would trend all the way across all economic spectrum. Okay, so a few technical difficulties, but I think the technical difficulties are taken care of now. So let me get back to where I was, and that's just kind of green screen stuff. But the 20% should trend all the way across. Then you can say, well, hey, people spend different amounts for groceries. I need $200 a week. Somebody else needs $100 a week, depending on what you buy, where you buy it at, so on and so forth. But the principle is the same, 20%, 20%, 20%. So using that standard, somebody makes $5,000 a week, their groceries should cost $1,000 a week. Same family of four, $1,000 a week. And you go, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, what are you going to buy for $1,000 per week in groceries per se? If you have the same size family, if you bought $1,000 last week, you probably don't need another $1,000 this week, as opposed to somebody can run through $100 worth of groceries fairly easily with a family of four. Well, that's, of course, spending. And so that's not the same thing as taxes. And so the idea is fair share means that unlike food, taxes should trend that way. Because otherwise, there's progressive and there's regressive taxing. Otherwise, it's a regressive tax. And this person who has $500 a week lost a higher percentage of their income to food than the person who makes $5,000 a week. They did. And so it is unfair to them to lose a larger proportion of their income to taxes. Continue with the example. If somebody makes $40,000 a year and has to pay $4,000 in taxes, that's 10%. And you would want that 10% to carry out all the way through. But what we found here recently, even seeing this president who's dealing with millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, supposedly a billionaire, he's paid $750 in the past few years. A lot of families making five figures have not paid that little in taxes. But he finds loopholes and he takes losses and that's another thing is a lot of people are sitting at home doing their own taxes, don't know all of these games and loopholes and things. They say, well, that's an advantage. That's an advantage for somebody with a lot more money, living a lot better than they do, able to employ people who can find ways out of paying their fair share. And their fair share means if you think it's okay for regular working families to pay taxes at all, then you have to feel like it is fair for those who have way more to pay the same proportion. The same proportion of their income. Not a higher dollar amount. Because just going back to the grocery example, that family of four that has a nicer income could do it at Whole Foods versus this family doing it at Walmart for the groceries and could spend $350. And you go, well, they spent over 3 times as much. You still did not get to 20% of their income. You need to get to 20% to match that family's 100. $350 did not match that family's $100, percentage-wise. So I don't care about millionaires I paid $2 million and this family paid $4,000. If that's 10% of their income, then that needs to be 10% of your income. And the argument is even made progressively that if this family is going to struggle before April to figure out where they're going to come up with $4,000, a millionaire's tax burden should be enough that he is looking around in April of how he's going to come up with whatever amount that is. Like, it should be an amount up to the point that it hurts. Because it's going to be a long way from hurting even if you pay 10%. Even if you have $4 million and you have to pay $400,000 in taxes, that's way more than $4,000, but you may not have to find it, or it's not going to affect your family eating or being thrown out of their apartment or anything like that, because you can live this other person's lifestyle 10 times over without having to worry about it. You could make $4 million, buy $1 million home, pay your taxes on the home, own the house outright, you still have so many choices going up that they're just like, oh, it's crazy. If they paid half, they would still live better than 90% of Americans. If you can pay 70% and still live better than 90% of Americans, I don't know what the complaint is. This is the only country that complains that way about taxes. It pays the least and complains the most. So, like Warren Buffett said, yes, taxes are class warfare. And my class is winning because I pay a smaller percentage of my income than my secretaries do. And that's just the way it is. And that is fundamentally unfair. That is fundamentally unpatriotic. That is fundamentally un-American. Because it's supposed to be about opportunity. And opportunity means everybody does what they can to contribute to there being opportunity in this country, because opportunity equals prosperity. So I pay higher taxes so other people can have opportunities, so this country can have greater prosperity, and there's a greater good. If I hoard all mine off, and mine is all off in the Caymans, and mine is all tax deferred, and I'm renouncing my American citizenship and the Isle of Man and all this type of stuff like they do, that's not helping American opportunity. That's not helping American prosperity. That's just helping you. And so, yeah, it's class warfare. And you've declared war on the people and the country that have made you possible. And you're a bad person for it. That's not hating success. That's hating evil. I hate evil. There's no way that, how? You run a hotel, what'd you do? Are you washing dishes? Are you folding sheets? Were you out there doing the construction? What'd you do that only you should benefit? That you are entitled to such a disproportionate amount of the success. You can get more. You already have more. You make millions. They make tens of dollars. You're already winning. They have to take their minimal amount and still put back into the pot for prosperity. And you get to take your disproportionate amount and hide it. What's good or fair or right about that? They're not getting as much of the benefit as you are and have to feel like it's right and legal and fair for them to throw back into a pot that they're not actually benefiting from. And you don't feel like you owe a system that's giving you everything at these people's expense. You don't owe anything back. It's your job to try to find a way to weasel out of putting anything back in for the next you. So, regressive and progressive taxes. Read it, learn about it, understand it. Don't let them keep talking to you about higher taxes or whatever else. They're not talking about you, Joe Schmo. You don't make the kind of money that they're talking about for higher taxes. You don't. You make up a voting bloc to protect that rich oligarchy from higher taxes. Capital gains tax, tax on the 1%, you're not in that group. You vote for the guy that's for higher taxes, because that's going to take you from fucking, lunch sandwiches to opportunity. That's going to take you from working yourself to an early grave to having a chance. That's going to take you from watching your children apply for student loans and go into debt to having the money to pay for it yourself, like they do. They don't think it's any good, ask them to trade places with you. They think you're such a patriot, ask them to trade places with you. They think you're doing all right, ask them to trade places with you. But they are screaming and kicking and falling all over the furniture and running up and down the halls of power every day to make sure they are not put in the same fucking position you are already in. you're patriotic, you're a true believer, you're paying your taxes, you're doing every damn thing because you're a true believer, and they don't think they should have to do what you have to do. And then you're out here voting against them paying their fair share. Progressive and regressive taxes. Learn about it, read about it, understand it. It's not socialism, it's common fucking sense. It's patriotism. Like most liberal and democratic things. LeBron James is in the 1%, will not benefit voting Democrat. Barack Obama will not benefit voting Democrat. Warren Buffett won't benefit. Bill Gates won't benefit. It's a greater good. And here you are voting against your own family, against your own well-being. Understand the argument and then make your decision. But at least do it based on what it is. As usual, fuck you. Don't need you to subscribe. Don't give a fuck about your comments. I'm a grown-ass man, so my life doesn't revolve around likes. I'm just some guy, and only I know what's best. Have a great day.